is an line of green carrot.
In the dim glow of her cracked phone screen, Aisha Thompson stared at the text message that shattered her world one last time. I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. I need space. Don't call. It was from Marcus, the man she'd poured her fractured heart into after her husband's sudden death 2 years ago, the one she'd dared to believe could stitch her life back together. Her 5-year-old son, Jamal, lay asleep in the next room, oblivious to the storm raging in her chest. Tears blurred the words as sobs racked her body, silent and savage, because she couldn't wake him. Not again. She was 32, a black woman raising a fatherless boy in a city that chewed up dreams and spat out survival. The betrayal wasn't just his words. It was the echo of every abandonment she'd ever known. Her dad's disappearance when she was 10, her husband's car accident that left her widowed and broke, the endless shifts at the hospital as a nurse that barely covered daycare. Why me? She whispered to the empty air, curling into herself on the threadbare couch. In that moment, as grief clawed at her throat like a living thing, Aisha felt utterly, irrevocably alone. But tomorrow, she had a flight to Chicago for her sister's wedding. A forced smile across state lines, a ticket she'd bought before the text, before the unraveling. Little did she know, the skies held a stranger's shoulder that would cradle more than her exhaustion. Aisha boarded the flight with Jamal's small hand clutched in hers, her carry-on slung over one shoulder like an anchor dragging her down. The airport bustle blurred into a haze of fluorescent lights and hurried footsteps, her mind a fortress of denial. It's fine, she told herself, the mantra looping since dawn. Marcus was just a phase. You've got Jamal. You've got your job. This is your life now, strong, solo, surviving. But the lie tasted like ash. Her eyes, puffy from a night of stifled cries, scanned the aisle numbers until she found 14A and 14B. Window for Jamal, aisle for her. The man in 14C, tall, impeccably suited, with salt and pepper hair and a jawline that screamed boardrooms, glanced up from his tablet with a polite nod. Morning, he said, voice smooth as aged whiskey. She murmured a response, buckling Jamal in with mechanical precision, his curly head already nodding against the pillow she'd packed. As the plane taxied, Aisha's body betrayed her. The exhaustion hit like a tidal wave. Nights blurred into days of double shifts, Jamal's fevers, the eviction notice she'd hidden in her glove compartment. Just rest your eyes, she thought, eyelids fluttering. Denial was her shield, but fatigue was the crack in its armor. Her head lolled sideways, cheek brushing the stranger's shoulder before she could catch herself. He stiffened, then relaxed, a subtle shift she felt in her sleep-addled haze. For the first time in months, she slept deeply, dreamless, the hum of engines a lullaby she hadn't known she needed. She woke to turbulence, jolting upright with a gasp. Jamal stirred, clutching his stuffed elephant. Mama, are we crashing? His wide eyes, so like his father's, pierced her. No, baby, just bumps in the clouds. She kissed his forehead, forcing a smile, but her gaze snagged on the man's hand resting on the armrest. There, on his left ring finger, gleamed a gold band, simple, worn, etched with years. It caught the cabin light like a beacon or a blade. Her breath hitched. Married. Of course he's married. The sight unleashed a floodgate. Pain, raw and unbidden, surged through her. Memories of her own wedding ring, pawned last year for Jamal's asthma meds. Of Marcus's bare finger when he'd whispered lies in her ear. Of the empty space on her hand that no longer even ached for what was lost. Why does everyone else get to keep their promises? The internal scream echoed in her skull as she stared out the window at the endless blue, tears pricking hot and furious. Denial cracked under the weight. This wasn't fine. She was drowning in a sea of almosts, almost a family, almost healed, almost enough. The man, Ethan, she'd glimpse his name on his boarding pass later, shifted, noticing her rigid posture. Rough flight, he asked gently, his voice pulling her back. She shook her head, too raw to speak, but Jamal piped up, Mama's tired. She works all the time. The boy's innocence twisted the knife deeper, his small voice a mirror to her unspoken fractures. Ethan's eyes softened, flicking to the ring she fixated on. Kids have a way of saying what we're all thinking, don't they? He chuckled low, But there was no mockery, only a warmth that seeped through her defenses. Aisha swallowed, the pain blooming into something articulate. Yeah, he's my everything. But sometimes, it feels like I'm failing him. The words escaped before she could cage them, vulnerability spilling like ink on wet paper. He nodded, glancing at his own hand. I get that. Fatherhood's a battlefield. Lost my wife to cancer 3 years ago. This, he tapped the ring. It's all I have left of her. A reminder that love doesn't vanish. It just changes shape. His confession hung between them, a bridge over her chasm of hurt. Pain twisted in her gut, not just her own, but shared, universal. He's broken too, she realized, the thought a small mercy amid the storm. Jamal, sensing the shift, leaned over. What's that shiny thing, mister? Ethan smiled, holding out his hand. This? It's like a superhero badge. Means I've fought a big battle and keep going for my girls. Jamal's eyes widened in awe. Cool. Mama, you need one. Aisha laughed, a brittle sound that cracked into something real, tears mingling with it. In that cramped row, amid the recycled air, the pain didn't lift. It deepened, forcing her to feel the full weight of her betrayals, her losses. Marcus's text replayed, space, her husband's last breath in the hospital. I love you. The single mom badge she wore like invisible chains. As the plane descended, turbulence easing, Aisha's mind churned. Asterisk deny it all you want, but you're hurting. And that's okay. Asterisk Ethan's quiet presence anchored her, his ring no longer a symbol of exclusion, but of endurance. He shared snippets, a story of his daughter's first steps after the funeral, how grief turned board meetings into blurs. She reciprocated haltingly. The nights she'd rocked Jamal through nightmares of his daddy's absence. The betrayal of Marcus that echoed her deepest fears of unworthiness. You're not failing, Ethan said softly as wheels touched tarmac. You're raising a warrior. That's more than most. Jamal hugged the man's arm impulsively. Thanks for the pillow, Superdad. Stepping off the plane, Aisha's steps felt heavier yet lighter. Pain acknowledged like a wound finally cleaned. Denial had been her crutch. Now, it splintered under truth's weight. Chicago's skyline loomed, a promise of her sister's wedding, and perhaps her own reckoning. But in that fleeting flight, a stranger's shoulder had borne more than her head. It had cradled her hidden fractures, whispering that pain was the forge of strength. The hotel lobby in Chicago buzzed with wedding prep, floral cascades, laughter echoing off marble floors. But Aisha moved through it like a ghost, Jamal's hand a lifeline in the chaos. Her sister's embrace was fierce, scented with jasmine and joy. You made it. And look at this handsome nephew of mine. Nia pulled back, eyes sharpening on Aisha's face. Sis, you okay? You look haunted. Aisha waved it off with a practiced smile, but reflection had taken root mid-flight, tendrils weaving through her thoughts. Asterisk haunted? Or just human? Asterisk the plane's confines had cracked her open. Now, in the light of day, she couldn't unsee the fissures. That evening, as Jamal napped and Nia fussed over dresses, Aisha slipped out to the rooftop terrace. The city sprawled below, a glittering testament to reinvention. She traced the outline of Ethan's ring in her mind, not with envy, but curiosity. What if loss isn't the end, but the edit? Reflection settled like dusk, soft and insistent. She'd spent years building walls, denying the depth of her widowhood scar, numbing the sting of Marcus's ghosting with overtime shifts. But Ethan's words lingered. Love changes shape. Sitting there, wind tousling her braids, she let the questions flood. Asterisk, who am I without the pain? Without the single mom armor? Asterisk, internal dialogue unfolded like a quiet therapy session. Asterisk, you're Aisha. The girl who danced in rain puddles as a kid, who memorized poetry to escape her absent dad. The woman who held her husband's hand as he slipped away, promising Jamal the world. Asterisk. A soft cough interrupted her reverie. Ethan, impossibly, here, stood at the terrace edge, loosening his tie. Small world, he said, spotting her. Wedding guest. She laughed, genuine this time, the sound surprising her. My sisters. You. Business, but I crashed the rooftop for air. They leaned on the railing, the city lights mirroring stars. Jamal's earlier awe sparked the conversation. Ethan pulled out his phone, showing a photo of his 2 daughters, gap-toothed grins amid a park picnic. They keep me honest. After Sarah, my wife, died, I buried myself in work. CEO title felt like a shield. But one day, my oldest asked, "Daddy, when are you going to smile again?" Broke me wide open. Aisha nodded, warmth blooming in her chest. His vulnerability was a mirror, reflecting her own buried pieces. Jamal does that. Last week, he drew me a picture, Mama with wings. Said I fly too much at work. She pulled up the crayon scribble, colors wild and unapologetic. Ethan's eyes misted. Wings. That's profound. Kids see the light we forget. They talked for hours. Strangers turned confidants, sharing the minutiae of grief's anatomy. He confessed the guilt of moving on, dating sporadically, always glancing at his ring like a talisman. She admitted the betrayal's echo. Marcus hadn't just left. He'd validated her fear of being unlovable, a black woman navigating a world quick to dismiss her strength as sass. As the night deepened, small victories unfurled. Ethan shared a wisdom from his late wife's journal. Grief isn't a straight line, it's a spiral. You circle back, but each loop, you're higher. Aisha absorbed it, her reflection sharpening. Asterisk I've been spiraling in the dark. Time to climb. Asterisk Jamal woke then, patting out in his dinosaur pajamas, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Mama? Who's that? Ethan knelt to his level. Just a friend who knows about superheroes. Jamal beamed, launching into a tale of his elephant's adventures. Watching them, her son's trust bridging the gap, Aisha felt a realization dawn. Healing wasn't solitary. It bloomed in these intersections, strangers and small ones alike sparking the flame. The wedding next day was a tapestry of renewal. Nia, radiant in white, pulled Aisha aside during photos. I saw you last night with that guy? Spill. Aisha hesitated, then poured it out. The flight, the ring, the raw exchange. Nia's eyes welled. Sis, that's your heart cracking open. Not breaking, opening. On the dance floor, Jamal tugged her into a twirl, his laughter infectious. Ethan appeared later, daughters in tow, Lily, 7, with braids like Aisha's, and Mia, 4, clutching a flower crown. Thought we'd crash properly, he grinned. The girls enveloped Jamal in giggles, an impromptu playground amid the slow dances. Aisha and Ethan swayed nearby, not quite a couple, but connected in the quiet language of the wounded. As the night waned, personal growth took root, tentative shoots in fertile soil. I am enough, she affirmed inwardly, the words of vow. Not despite the losses, the husband's void, Marcus's shadow, but through them, forged stronger. Ethan's hand brushed hers, ring glinting. This doesn't mean I'm whole, he said softly. But I'm trying. She squeezed back. Me too. And that's the win. Back home days later, the story unfolded beyond the terrace. A passenger from the flight had snapped a photo, candid, heart-tugging. Aisha dozing on Ethan's shoulder, Jamal curled nearby, the ring catching light like hope. It went viral on social media, captioned, strangers sharing shoulders and stories midair. Proof kindness still flies. Comments poured in, thousands melting hearts worldwide. This is what humanity looks like. Single mom solidarity. Aisha read them in her kitchen, Jamal munching cereal, a quiet peace settling. The attention led to messages, from support groups, speaking gigs at women's shelters. But the true growth? Waking without the crush of denial, facing pain as an old acquaintance, reflecting on scars as stories. In the mirror that morning, Aisha slipped on a silver bracelet, not a ring, but a circle of her own making, engraved with wings. Jamal hugged her legs. You got your superhero badge, Mama. She knelt, heart full. Renewal wasn't a destination. It was this, small, shared, soaring. A message of renewal. In the quiet aftermath of storms, remember that your deepest wounds are not endpoints, but invitations. To lean on strangers' shoulders. To let children's laughter rewrite your script. To wear your scars as badges of battles won. You are not defined by what was taken, but by the grace with which you rise, thread by fragile thread, into a self-acceptance that whispers, you were always enough. Now fly. Moral of the story. Healing is not the erasure of pain, but the courageous weaving of it into wisdom, true inner strength emerges when we allow vulnerability to bridge our isolations, revealing that in our shared fractures, we find the unbreakable light within.